Okay, let me tell you something about my life. Throughout my 4 years of high school, I was faced with many situations and struggles that made me the person I am today. The person I am today comes from family obstacles that I have faced. I started off like any other freshman, getting lost in the halls or getting stuck in traffic. But I started my freshman year telling myself, I'm going to be the first to walk the stage. I'm not going to take the same footsteps as my sister, and I'm going to make my parents proud. My parents having high standards in me and being so motivated to do good, I started like any other student. Good grades, attending school every day. But then everything just collapsed down, like building blocks tipping over. My mom was diagnosed with breast cancer. I always joked about it, never took care about it, never really paid attention to it. So that I caused this to happen. Was this all my fault? I ended that year failing four of my classes, not doing so well, letting my parents down, disappointing them, and putting my mom down when she was already down. Then sophomore year came. I was introduced to parties, relationships, and didn't really make the best image of myself. My circle of friends and my social life increased, and while that increased, my grades decreased. I was a sophomore in a freshman class, while all my friends were ahead. While all my friends were ahead, taking their sophomore classes, I was behind taking my freshman classes. When I thought freshman year was bad, everything was falling apart. Sophomore year had to be one of my most memorable years. I went from my mom having breast cancer, her in and out of surgeries, to her chemo, and then my mom losing her job. The situation got worse, and I would not care. I had no shame of my mom having tears in her eyes, sort of like Jack from Room. How his mom went out of all the way, would do everything for him, and he would be ungrateful about it. And all I would do is just sneak out and go party. And I will never forget the day my mom told me, "Do you still want me to go get your classes? Should I still go pick up your schedule?" Or how about when she told me, "So what grade do you plan on dropping out on?" So I might not be talking about my dad so much, you must be wondering. But I don't talk about my dad because he wasn't really in the picture. He was there, but physically, he was only there physically. And I sort of still blame myself for this, but I pushed my father away. The one guy that was there for me for everything. I was a once his number one son, his first son actually, the son he always worked for. I let him down. I pushed him to start drinking because of my ways, because of my partying ways, because of never being home. I felt alone. I felt like I had nobody. Nobody there to help me with my schoolwork, nobody there to take me to practice. Sort of like Baba and Hassan's relationship. Hassan tried so hard to get Baba's attention. Baba never cared. Then it was summer after sophomore year. I had to do summer school, 2 sessions. And we went, and a book I read that year that really inspired me was We Beat the Streets. These three young men living in living in a bad neighborhood still went stuck together and followed their dreams. This showed me that no matter what your surroundings are, you should always follow your dreams and never give up. So after that year, it woke me up. I started getting more involved in my family, getting more involved in fundraisers and helping out. So I started applying for jobs. During my sophomore year, I applied and I had my first job at El Güero. I got my first paycheck, but the paycheck wasn't just mine. The paycheck was for my brothers, was for my mom. I wasn't working for myself, but I was working for my family. When I thought everything was going well, we had to move. I had to leave all my friends and say goodbye. I had to move across town. So I had to decide if it was either transferring out of Central going into West or just staying at Central. Well, the beginning of my junior year, I decided to move to West. It felt like I was a freshman again because the only people I knew was the people in the soccer team. I felt lost my first couple of days, but then there was this one person that was always there for me. She was my best friend. She pushed me to become a better person and she pushed me to have better grades. At the end of that year, I was finally proud to show my parents my report cards. My grades have went up and I finally made my mom proud. I started getting more involved, going again to fundraisers, helping more out. But then I had to get a second job. Money wasn't so well, my dad lost his job, so then I had to get a second job. The more I worked, the more my dad wasn't there. I started filling the shoes of a mature man. Then starts my senior year, the big year of high school. The year of all the stress, all the pressure, and all the late nights of doing homework. And that one question that you got asked 10 times before the day ended. What are you going to do after high school? But I had no worry. All I worried about was the last high school soccer season. The last year to make something big of myself. We started off good. I started emailing coaches, but then what I always worried about to happen, it happened. I got injured during conference. The huge scouting moment I trained for, I had to damage my spleen. Kicked straight in the ribs. So now I was sitting on the bench while all the scouts hovered over my teammates. So I felt alone. So I felt like that was the only way I would be able to enter college. So I felt like I threw my college out the window. Yeah, I had good grades, but my hopes of going into college was gone. But I had to finish my season. I went good. I might have not been scouted, but I was interviewed by the Hero News. We left that final season of family. Me from being the new teammate to being part of their family. So then I got home. But the odd thing was I found my dad's car in the driveway. And that's the odd thing because my dad works the night shift. So I go inside. Finding my mom calling for help, yelling, my dad just faced a severe seizure. What do I do? So he was rushed to the hospital, and I had to stay home. But being home, thoughts rushed through my head, thinking, what would happen if I lost my dad? Where would I be without him? I was scared, I was worried, but mainly I was mad. I was mad because he never stopped drinking. My dad came out fine after 3 days, but then 2 days after, he had to go back. For a month, he spent more time in the ER than at home. I had to miss school so that my mom wouldn't miss work. My grades dropped dramatically. I lost sleep, working late hours, and trying to bring up my grades up. So this made me think a lot about my dad. What happened if my dad wasn't here? What would happen if we lost him? So that's when I started looking for a career that interested me. To do it for me, not for my parents, or not what my parents would like me to do, but for me. So I reached out to the UTI, Universal Technical Institute. I reached out to their advisors. Later on, talking to them and being enrolled. I enrolled in UTI and later on being rewarded a scholarship. This news made my parents very proud. Not only that, but that my parents and the family I had before is beginning to come back. From my mom being disappointed in me to my mom being proud and bragging about me. From going out partying to staying home or going to work or spending time with the family. From having an alcoholic dad neglecting his family to now having a dad proud of his son and pushing him to follow his dreams. So now it's the end of senior year and we are enjoying the last couple of days. From preparing for prom to actually going to prom or also to graduating. This is an ending of the book of our high school life. Just preparing to start a whole other book. Therefore, high school is going to be a very hard 4 years in our lives. From at home to being at school. Why lie and say it was easy? It isn't. It's hard. But that is life. You should never stop pushing forward because you'll never know how close you are to the finish line.